we start. Here we go.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Anna Romandash, and I am your moderator. I'm super excited to have you all here tonight, and thanks a lot for joining us for our 8th session of MediaBoost 2.0. Again, super excited to have Даґлас here. He will be speaking in just a second, and I will introduce him. But before we get started, I will also explain a little bit what our program is all about. So if you're watching us on Zoom or if you're watching us on Facebook, very warm welcome. You're watching MediaBoost 2.0. It's a crash course, digital intensive on online journalism. Basically, 20 webinars on how to become a better journalist, better media maker, better communications person, better whatever it is that you're doing. So thanks again for joining us. If you are watching us in Zoom, you can watch us in English and in Ukrainian. If you are watching us from the live stream on Facebook or YouTube, you can only watch us in English. So if you're looking for a Ukrainian version, please go to Zoom. We will be here. If you're wondering how to register, if you're wondering how to get information and updates about the events, it's super easy. Just go to the website mediaboost.live and register there. You'll get all of the information, all of the announcements, all of the updates, all of the recordings, everything. You know, it's all good, it's all free. So please register on the website mediaboost.live and you will get all of the information about joining webinars. In addition, if you want to join us in Zoom today, also go to the mediaboost.live, just find Даґлас Areyanес, the speaker, and next to his name, there's a link on how you can register to Zoom. MediaBoost 2.0 is a joint project by Digital Communication Network and America House Kyiv, run with the support from the US Embassy in Ukraine. As I said, we have 20 webinars planned. We already did 7 webinars. Today is the 8th webinar. Today we will be talking about multimedia storytelling and scrolitелінг. If you don't know what that is, that's fine, because Даґлас, our speaker, will explain everything. Даґлас is a great friend of DCN. He's a developer. He's an inventor, I guess. I mean, if you read his bio, he kind of worked everywhere, I guess. In every country in the world, he was doing something. He's the co-founder of Sourcefabric. He's the co-founder of Mural, which is a program that he will be talking about today. It's a program, it's a tool that helps you to create great multimedia stories. And I hope this session will be very practical, very useful for you. So thanks again for joining us. And Даґлас, happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here. I'm hearing someone there. Okay. It's a great honor to be here. Greetings from Prague, where it is cold and rainy and there's lots of COVID. So this is definitely a good time to be indoors for our presentation today. If you don't mind, I have some slides and I would like to share them with you. But I need to have screen sharing enabled. Can I ask for the screen sharing to be enabled, please? Anya? The host disabled attendee screen sharing, unfortunately.
You want to share slides?
Yes, I would like to, please.
Just give me a second. You're supposed to be our co-host, so you're supposed to be able to do that.
Okay. Technology. You know, I like to say that technology is easy, humans are hard.
Well, it shows me that you are a co-host, so you should be able to do that.
Now it's good. Now it works. Okay. Let me go ahead and share some slides with you, because hopefully this will give you a better idea of what it is that we're working on and what Mural is. And there's me. Hello. Hello. So my name is Даґлас Areyanес. I'll move myself this way. And As Anya pointed out, I am a software developer, and I am also a bit of an activist. And I've been working for many years in the area of technology and journalism, especially in storytelling. Now, we're going to be talking today about what scrollytelling is. We'll talk as well about some of the stories that we have made using the Mural tool. We'll talk about Mural itself. But I also wanted to talk about planning visual stories because this is extremely important for our own, for making a successful project. We will also talk about making a good story great and really what takes a story from being merely good into being absolutely excellent. And finally, we'll talk about the future because we have some big news related to the future of Mural, which is very positive. So let's see. The first thing that I wanted to mention was a quote from the author, the American author, William Faulkner, who said, "Kill your darlings." Now, what he meant by this was that it's very important for people, authors, anyone creative, to really try to take what they love the most and be ready to stop it if necessary. In my own case, my own background is that of a software developer. And for almost 20 years now, I have been working in the area of content management systems. Content management systems are pieces of software. WordPress would be an example of a content management system, or Drupal, or Joomla would be another example. And for 8 years, I worked at an organization called the Media Development Investment Fund. And then for another 9 years, I worked for an organization that I co-founded called Sourcefabric. And Sourcefabric makes content management systems for news media. So I say this all in as a little bit of background for what it is that we are working on with Mural, because one of the things that we really looked at when we made Mural was that we needed to make some very radical design choices. So in this way, we'll talk about some of those. Now, how we got here. Also, by the way, I wanted to say hello to Naomi Aro, who is our Chief Technical Officer at Mural. Naomi will be in the chat, and she will hopefully be sharing useful links and things, hopefully comments and things when I am talking. Now, a little bit about my own background. I am a former journalist. I started with the Los Angeles Times way back in the late 80s. I worked here in Prague for a newspaper called Prognosis, which was an English language newspaper. And then when the internet started in the early 90s, I also was in the internet business. I am involved in a lot of various things, as Anya pointed out. And one of the things that I am proudest of is that I am a member of the board of an organization called the Prague Civil Society Center, which does help the development of civil society in a lot of countries in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So how we got here. Well, the first thing that we learned when we were working on Mural was that traditional content management systems do not work very well with visual content. Usually, if you want visual content in a tool like WordPress, you have a slideshow, or maybe you embed a YouTube video. But that's about all that you're going to be doing. The actual templates and the setup of the CMS is really not made for visual content. And what we also looked at when we started making Mural was that visual stories do not really need all of the things that a content management system does. It's just too much. It's too much tool for a very simple task. What we decided was that it was faster, cheaper, and easier to work with static files. I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit, but the idea was really to be as simple as possible with the actual technology of the tool. Making things quickly was also a key goal. Currently, when you make a multimedia story, if you're relatively familiar with the tool, it will take you around 4 hours to make one of these multimedia stories. And also they will be very fast. So the good thing is that because we do not have a content management system running when we make these Mural stories, it's a lot simpler to work on. And finally, the thing that we really like about Mural is that when you finish your story and you're ready to publish it, Mural will output a zip file, and the zip file contains all of the necessary files inside. So you'll have an HTML file, you'll have a JavaScript file, a CSS file, and then your media file. So the idea here is just to be as simple as possible. Funding for Mural came from Google. Thank you, Google. In their digital news initiative, this was, I believe, in 2017, we initially got funding from Google. And we have just received additional funding from the Mozilla Foundation and Creative Commons and an organization called COIL under their Grants for the Web initiative. If you want to know more about what we learned, we have a nice story up on Medium, which talks about what we learned making Mural and how the various design choices happened when we decided to build this tool. Part of the project, one of the things that we've always tried to do with the project is to make it as transparent as possible when in every aspect. So how we made the tool was also it was just as important as the actual features of the tool. So am I going fast enough or slow enough, Anya? Is this okay? I just want to make sure that we're also just right for the interpreter. So if I'm too slow,
you're doing really great.
Okay, good. Okay. So what is it that we mean when we talk about visual storytelling and scrollytelling? Well, scrollytelling is a funny word. It's the combination of two words, scrolling and storytelling. So everybody has a mouse these days, and the mouse has a scroll wheel, right? So the idea with this is that really in a scrollytelling environment, your primary navigation is by using the scroll wheel, or if you're using a mobile device, then you're just sliding through the story. And what a scrollytelling story does is it combines text and photos and data visualizations into a single package. And the users move from item to item by scrolling or using their scroll wheel, sorry. Another thing that's very nice about this approach is that videos start automatically when a user scrolls into them. And so what that means is that there's not the typical paradigm that you have of YouTube, where the user has to press the button to play the video, press another button to expand the screen. And so these videos automatically just start. They can also loop, which is also something that gives you a lot of flexibility. The very good stories will combine a lot of different elements to tell an important story. And I'll give you some examples of those. One thing that many people ask, yes, there's a question from the chat. Olha Timchak asks, is Mural free for users? Yes, it is open source. So it's not just free, but you are free to make changes to the software. As a matter of fact, if you have a background in software development, we would love for you to be involved. Another thing, though, that people ask a lot is, how long should one of these stories be? And the answer is actually that you can have a story that is as long as you like. You would be surprised that readers, especially if they are very involved in the story, they will go all the way through a story. So you can have as many items in your story as it takes to tell the story, as long as it is not boring. Now, I also want to share an opinion from a colleague by the name of Robert Hernandez, who is a leading journalist and technologist. And he says something very important, that simply because your news organization posted video, that does not mean that it produced multimedia. And this also applies to podcast. Audio alone and video alone does not equal multimedia. It does not take advantage of the digital medium. And so what we're trying to do is exactly that, to create to create a tool so that people can bring all of these different items together. The grandfather of all of these stories was a story from the New York Times from, I believe, 2012. The story was called Snowfall, the Avalanche at Tunnel Creek. And the New York Times won a Pulitzer Prize for this story. But this story had about 30 people working on it. Now, I don't know about your news organization, but most of the organizations that I have worked with around the world do not have the luxury of having 30 people working on a story. So this was one of the goals that we wanted to have when we made Mural. It was to make a story like Snowfall, but very quickly and without having to know programming. So I wanted to show you some examples of stories in action. So what I'm going to do next, I will actually I'll share a different screen. One moment. Let's see here. I will share this screen now. Yes. Okay. So this is a story that was created by an organization, the largest news organization in Taiwan, an organization called United Daily News, or UDN. And this is, I think, probably the best mural story that we have seen so far. The story is called The Invisibles, and it is about migrant farm workers who are working in the farms of Taiwan, and most of them are there illegally. The story combines wonderful sound and video and text. And as you see in this example, the video goes out to full screen automatically and it plays automatically. And you know, in this project as well, they did a lot of really nice drone video as well. So they spent a lot of time working on actually the reporting of it, and it shows. So this is The Invisibles by Ed Zhong and his team at UDN in Taiwan. Now, this is an example of what you can do with a mural story. The user scrolls through a story, and at the same time, if there is video, the video is automatically started when the user scrolls into it. So there's nothing for the user to trigger. It automatically just starts. So hopefully this is something that you can all see. I'm hoping that this is the case. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, good.
Yeah, we can see.
Good, just making sure. Let me switch to another story. This one is another wonderful example. When we created Mural, we started working on it with a group of artists in the north of England. And one of the things that is always great about working with artists is that artists always try to push what is possible with the medium. And so innovators like Dr. Dominic Smith have made some really wonderful stories using Mural. In this one, what's really great is that the story is a series of interviews with a lifeguard, and the lifeguard is talking about his life and his career as a lifeguard, but he is combining it with video that Dominic himself shot. Again, some of this video was shot just with his mobile phone and a tripod, and some of it was shot using a drone. But the effect is really strong. And again, as you navigate through the story, all the video is triggered by the user as they scroll through. So this is an example of from Dr. Dominic Smith. I'll show you another one. This is one from one of my students. Sorry. I teach a class on multimedia storytelling at Anglo-American University in Prague. And this is a story by one of my students, and it is wonderful in terms of what the story is about. It's really about street food in Prague, but it was told in a very smart way. Again, it uses a lot of video. Some of the video is shot without a tripod, like this shot. But the great thing is as well, we also can combine text over the video. So this moves the layouts much more into the realm of magazine content. And so this piece, I think, is really good at showing this type of storytelling. In this one as well, she's using photos with video, photos with audio in the background. Okay, so these are some various things from this story. This is another story that let's see. We have a number of different stories on the Mural website. Let me move the control here. One moment, there we go. So we have a lot of different stories on the Mural website at getmural.io. I believe it's shared in the chat. And most of the stories can be told in very simple ways. Most of these stories actually are shot with mobile phones. Some of them are shot very nicely with SLRs, with very nice professional cameras. But in all of these examples, the main thing is the same. A user scrolls through the story, videos are triggered automatically, and the user navigates from beginning to end. This might be a good place to stop for questions.
Perfect. Yeah, we have a few questions actually.
Okay.
The first question is, who is using your tool in Ukraine? Do you know if anybody's using it in Ukraine?
No, that's why I'm speaking to you today.
Perfect. So we're the pioneers in this group. We can be the first testers of your app, of your software. And another question is it like Tilda or is it something different?
It's similar to Tilda, but Tilda has a few more differences. It's more of a traditional CMS. And, I like Tilda, but one of the things that I like more about what we're doing is that you have absolute control over the source files. You have absolute control over the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript. I can actually show you an example of one of those right now. This is a story that Naomi, who is in the chat, made, and just as one illustration, This is one where she changed the fonts in the story, because this is a story about a heavy metal festival in Finland. And so she decided that the typical Mural font was not flexible enough, and so she chose to substitute in a different font. Sorry, I'll let the sound go. Sorry about that. But the point about this one as well was that it really, for this type of story, we developed new functionality. One of the things that we had was the ability to work with YouTube videos. This, for example, here is a YouTube video. Let's see if I can get it to, yeah, there we go. Again, so that's a YouTube video from one of these metal bands. Yeah, Dimmu Borgir, okay. So what we're
looks
we're
scary.
doing, sorry? Yeah, you didn't know that you were going to be subject to some heavy metal tonight. But what we're constantly trying to do is to make the formats of the stories as flexible as possible. And so this is one of the things that makes us different than a tool like Tilda. I hope that answers the question. Are there other questions?
Yes, we have many questions actually.
Okay.
So one question is kind of provocative. Why do you have to use Mural instead of Instagram or TikTok if they have similar scrollytelling idea?
Well, for one thing, you don't really have the ability to work with large amounts of text in TikTok. I'm sorry, either Instagram or TikTok. In Instagram stories, for example, the medium is really not set up for a lot of text. Now, you could, for example, pause the story by holding your finger on a screen, but that's not really what it's made for. And so that's one of the big differences. Another difference is that in our setup, you have absolute control over your content. On Instagram, it belongs to Instagram, and so if they decide for whatever reason to take your story down or to make changes in it or to put ads in between your content, they can do that instantly. Whereas when it's your content, you own it and you have total control over it. Other questions?
Yes. Are the videos stored on Mural platform and can you download it?
Good question. The stories are exported from the Mural tool as a zip file. And so the zip file contains all of the different things that you need to publish your story. So it has one HTML file, there's one CSS file, there's one JavaScript file, and then there's the media files for your story. That's it. And then you take those things and you upload them to your own web server. And that's pretty much all you need to do. So to answer the question, can you download your story? Absolutely, that's the point.
Can you use it on your smartphone and on your laptop?
Yes, we have added some features for vertical video. For example, we did a story. We did a story about a tennis match, and there was an interview of two tennis players. They were one was standing on this side, one on the other, and because the vertical video was such, we only got one shoulder of one guy and one shoulder of the other guy. And so what we had to do was to figure out a way to give the storytellers the ability to shift the video to fit whatever the format you had. So for example, in a mobile device, right? Usually the aspect ratio is 16:9, like an HD TV, but it's vertical. right? Which is different than an iPad, which is 4x3, a little more square, like an old TV. Now, the reason I mention these things is that usually when you're making a good story, you want to have all three of these formats in mind. So a laptop, a vertical mobile phone, and also a tablet.
There's another question.
Okay.
Does your platform provide interaction with the audience?
What do you mean? Like games or chat or?
Yes, anything that you can get like this
Yeah.
two-way communication.
Well, what you can do, we don't provide any of that ourselves, but what you can do is it supports embeds. So you could very easily embed anything, everything from a YouTube video to a quiz to SoundCloud files, Google Maps, this type of thing. So if you have one of these platforms that does something like an online quiz, you could easily embed it into your story. Perfect.
There's one, there are actually a few questions, which just like people asking like little details. I think a very good question is, will I need any special technical skills for uploading the zipped story to the site? Will it be enough to upload it to the CMS or to know some HTML?
It's always good to know some HTML. So if you know it, then you're going to benefit. But the story as it's exported from Mural should be just fine. It's only if you want to do something really extra, like change the fonts or do something something additional in your story that you would need additional skills. The idea is that when you export a story from Mural, what you're doing is then you have to upload it to your web server. Now, normally, the thing is nowadays, everybody thinks of their web server as being WordPress or something like WordPress. But in this case, what you need to do is use an FTP tool to upload the file straight to a web server like Apache or Nginx.
Thanks. A few more questions.
Sorry,
actually.
one more thing there, if I can.
Sorry.
Or if you're using Amazon S3, we've had wonderful results using Amazon S3 and the Amazon stack, the Amazon tool set.
Thanks. By the way, the reason I'm a bit slow with my question is because I'm speaking in English, but I'm listening to Ukrainian interpretation. So it's like many voices.
Okay.
In my head.
Okay. I'll try to go slow.
One more question is this, did I understand correctly? If I create a story on Mural, I can later download it to my Facebook?
What you can do is you share it on your Facebook, and the story will have an optimized image, and it will have some of the shared file. The promo text that draws people in. We have part of the thing that we have done is that we have included that kind of optimization, and this is true for Facebook and for Twitter.
Yeah, so there are a few questions about hosting, so maybe you can just I don't know if you're going to be talking about it during your presentation, but just maybe explain this a little bit, how people are hosting their pages, stories, whatever it is.
Sure. Well, sorry, like I say, usually the way that people use it is that they have a web server. Now, at this point, one of the reasons why we chose this approach was that it's very inexpensive. So you can find web servers for rent for a few dollars per month. I think in our case, our Amazon bill is around $20 per month for certain stories. But what but that's just one part of an overall approach. Again, what we recommend is that you do some testing, because, for example, high resolution video, high quality video, those files are very big, and you want to make sure that they're being served in the right way. Luckily, we provide support for YouTube, and we also have Vimeo support as well.
And if we're using music and templates in Mural, are they copyrighted or free version?
We do not provide support for copyrighted material. So you would be responsible for your own copyrights of any material that you use. Okay.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay.
I think we can move on now.
Cool. All right. Let me do that. I will rejoin the slideshow, hopefully. Let's see here. Okay. So bear with me for 1 second as I get my slides back up. Come on, slides. Ah, technology. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so where were we? I think we were about here. So these were examples of various stories. So I guess because the questions have been very detailed, it would probably be a good idea now to show you the application itself. The application looks like this, but I can actually, they say never actually do a live demo, but I'm going to try to do a live demo here. Let's see here. Here we go. So this is Mural, and the editor is divided into two parts: a visual preview, which shows you what your story is going to have, and then on the right-hand side, you have a listing of all of the different multimedia items that you're using. So in this case, our story looks like this, and I will scroll through it right now. So this is what the story would look like, and because it's a vertical alignment, this is what it would look like on a mobile phone in vertical format. But what's more important is what's going on over on the right-hand side. This is the listing of all of our elements. And so in this case, I'll show you the video that we're seeing right now, this bird's eye view video. We have a lot of different items in it. For example, the headline, the text for it, but also things like how far you want to shift the video, and then what source that we have for it. Now, what's cool about this is the ability to drag and drop for resequencing your item. So in this case, I've just moved that bird's eye view video to the very beginning of the story. And now, when I start my story, there are the videos now at the very beginning. And so this is something that you can't do in, for example, a slideshow. Try doing this in a WordPress slideshow. It's nearly usually impossible. But sorry, you have a bunch of different types of content that you can work with. Everything from video in the background, where the assumption is that you will have text going over the video. You have a thing called full page video, which provides a small control. You have a couple of different image types, including the ability to have audio playing behind a photo. You have slideshows with scrolling either vertically or horizontally, centered text for when you have long pieces of text, and then also support for YouTube directly as a video. When you're all, like we mentioned this before, but when you're finished with your story, what you do is you click on the download button, and hopefully you can see this second screen here, but it provides you with an option to download a zip file. And that zip file then is the thing that contains all of the stuff that you need for your story. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the whole idea with this was that this was designed to be something that was extremely simple to set up, extremely simple to use. And the point of it was to be able to make these types of stories very quickly. Now, in our case as well, it's also really important to remember that the Mural application it's not a content management system. It's actually what we call a page generator. So the Mural app just runs on your desktop, and when you're working with your Mural story, everything is directly coming to you from your desktop, which again means that things like big videos happen really quickly, which is another big advantage to working in this way. So I can hopefully that answers the questions about what the Mural app looks like. Are there other questions about that? Let me see. I'll stop sharing.
Not at the moment.
Okay, cool. Well, then let me go back to my presentation so that I can show you some of the other things about that. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so this gives you a rough idea of what the tool can do, but the whole idea with this approach was that we really wanted to get out of the way of storytellers so that you did not have to have something that was very technical, and instead allowed you to start to think about your stories and how you could tell those stories. Now, the next part of my talk will be about how to plan a visual story, because it's a little bit different than when you are planning just a regular text story, for example. It requires a little bit more preparation. So what makes a great visual story? Well, the best example or the best things about them are that it combines photography and video and writing and interactivity, and this is very important, sequence. The sequence turns out to be one of the most important things in a great visual story. Why do you start with this picture? Why do you start with this video? Is there a reason why this video follows that other video? And so when you're working on your story, it's important to think about that kind of sequence. So one of the things, I'm going to show some examples that I really, really love. These are examples that are not using Mural, but are wonderful in terms of what they managed to do in a very simple format. So this first example is from the New York Times and their cooking section. The New York Times has a fantastic cooking website, by the way. And there's this American holiday called Thanksgiving, which is coming up in November. And in this story, you would think that this is a story about recipes, right? How do you cook a turkey? How do you make mashed potatoes, right? But the chef, this woman, Melissa Clark, had a family tragedy occur in that her father had died 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. And she found herself suddenly having to prepare the Thanksgiving meal. And so this story, which should have been just a very simple set of recipes, turns out to be a really emotional story about loss, but also about what her father loved the most. So in this way, this was something where the emotion was very high. And again, the visuals really enhanced that kind of emotion. This next example also is wonderful in that it is about climate change, but it's about a polar bear that these researchers found up in the Arctic. And they took this polar bear back to Portland, Oregon, to the zoo. And it's about this polar bear. But this visual story manages to illustrate the problems of climate change by using this very cute polar bear here. So surprise is another thing that you want to have in a visual story. This was an example, again, from the New York Times, where, again, completely unexpected. There was a museum in New York that had an exhibit, had an exhibit about armor, about, the kind of things that knights would wear. Now, what they did was that they had some street dancers, some hip hop dancers come in and wear these things, but also try to dance street dancing while wearing these clothes. It was a big surprise, and it turned out to be extremely popular. So in this way, think about ways that you can surprise your audience. Someone was asking about whether they can see the videos. I will share the slides that I've got here, and the slides have links to the stories that are being shown. So we will include all of the links to all of these stories here. Now, the next thing that a good visual story will do is that it will take you somewhere that you cannot get on your own. So this is a story from the Washington Post, which is about the politics of the Arctic region, but because they're the Washington Post, they sent photographers to come and shoot some beautiful pictures about the places that are being talked about. And so in this way, they were able to take the viewer on a journey that they would otherwise not be able to go on. Another very important thing is to make sure that your audience can relate to the story that you're telling. So there are many ways that you can do that, but it's really important to have that in mind. How can your story make this topic more relatable to the audience? In this story, this is another one from the Washington Post, and they are a series of photos of the tsunami in Indonesia a couple years ago. But what they really try to show is the scale of the destruction. And so this is a collection of photos and video of the scope of the damage that happened in Indonesia. It's also really important to visualize a topic. And so one of the things that I like to tell my students is make the invisible visible. How can we use this medium to take something that people would not be able to understand otherwise and make it visible somehow? Now, sometimes this means data visualization. It might mean a map, it might mean a chart, but there are lots of other ways that you can also make the invisible visible. This is one of the best examples that I can think of. This is a story about the jazz musician John Coltrane and his groundbreaking album, Giant Steps, and the way that his approach to music actually works. And in about 8 minutes of storytelling, they're able to educate you on the topic of music theory, which again is a phenomenal achievement. This is an example from Vox, from the website Vox, which does a lot of really fantastic work in terms of visual storytelling. Now, sorry, I'll take a little more water here. So what makes a good story great? Well, first off, testing helps a lot. But before we continue, are there questions?
There is a question. do we need to put those all options like bird eye view, text in order, timeline, as we do in Adobe Premiere Pro?
It's good to do. One of the things that is a little bit unique, and for a lot of people who are very good with Adobe Premiere,
Great.
what I'd like to recommend is that people can expand their stories. They don't need to edit the story into a single linear piece of video. You can use maybe only a couple of cuts and allow the user to navigate through the story. So in some ways, what we're doing is exploding the process of video editing. We're breaking it up into individual chunks. So instead of having a single 30-minute long video, you can have many different shorter videos of maybe even a few seconds. I hope that answers that question.
Well, I guess it is a very good answer. We don't.
Okay.
Yeah. I will signal to you if we have any more questions.
Okay, cool. So what makes a good story great? Well, the first thing is testing. When you're working on one of these multimedia stories, it is really important to test the story. Ask people to view it. Do they understand it? Do they see all of the items that you worked so hard to present? What did they like in the story? What didn't they like? Does the story work on mobile? Does it work both horizontally and vertically? Does it work in low bandwidth? How can you simplify the items? How can you make the videos shorter? How can you make the story more obvious or more simple if people are not understanding it in this way? So testing will give you a lot of information that you can then use to make the story that much better. Again, testing unfortunately takes extra time, but at least in this way, you will be able to have a much better story at the end of it. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention is the flexibility in terms of design. You do have, if you understand HTML and CSS, the basic technologies of the web, you're able in a mural story to substitute things like fonts. So you can change your fonts according to the design that you choose. So we support that, and this is again only a couple of different items in the CSS that you need to change. Now, it happened a couple of times as well that there were some questions about distribution. So how do I get this to work with my, how do I get this to work with my WordPress? Well, one thing is that the story exists side by side with your CMS. So what you're doing is that your mural story is then embedded into your CMS. So we use a service that turns a web link into an embed. It's called Embedly, and that's how we're able to include your mural story into your WordPress website. Distribution, though, does not mean only Facebook or Kontakte. You could use Reddit. You could be using LinkedIn as well. And it's also important in this way to keep an eye on the performance of the story. Is the video loading fast enough? If it's not loading fast enough, then look at other ways of making that more optimized. So this is an example of Embedly. And so that story that we had about the metal festival, this is the Tuska festival as it is shared in a WordPress page. So that would be an example of how that is done. Now, I also wanted to mention where we're going, actually, this is probably a good time to pause for questions.
So people are asking basically about the difference between the free tools and the paid tools. From what I understand, they can use the software for free, but for example, if they want you guys to help them with the multimedia hosting or whatever, there is a payment. So maybe you can guide us through that.
Yeah, you're not at all required to use our hosting. That's the first thing. If you have a good hosting service, definitely use it. That's what we want in this case as well. However, if you want to hire us, either to create your story or to walk you through the process, then we're available for that. Open source does not mean that everything we do is free. It just means that the software itself is free.
There are a few more questions,
Okay.
mostly about how to make your multimedia story look nice. You know,
Okay.
should we use horizontal videos, vertical videos, pictures, whatever?
Yeah.
Like how to tell the story in a very pretty way.
Right. Well, the first thing is there's one of the questions about vertical or horizontal video. A lot of that will depend on your understanding of the audience. If you have a story, for example, that is aimed at a much younger audience, then probably you should think about going vertical first. We support either one, but it really depends on how you want the story to be experienced on its own. Now, in certain cases, in really extreme cases, people will prepare two separate versions of a story, one for horizontal and one for vertical. And so, for example, your videos are cropped differently if they're vertical, or they would be cropped differently for horizontal. We support either one, but this is something where we as tool makers cannot tell you how to tell your story, but at the same time, it is important to be thinking about both. So, what we usually do is we test for either. Although usually what we will do is we will target horizontal, basically laptop stories first, and then look at the mobile vertical after that. Now, how can you tell how people are accessing it? Well, for one thing, you can look at Google Analytics to see what devices people are coming to your content on. And Google Analytics will tell you. So if you're seeing 70% of the visitors coming from mobile devices, absolutely optimize for mobile. So maybe not necessarily for this story, but for the next story, you can absolutely optimize for mobile.
One more question, how good is it with 3D videos?
Sorry? I didn't understand the streaming videos?
Number three, D.
Yeah. Do you mean like YouTube style spherical video?
Like 3-dimensional, I guess.
I will be honest here, we have not worked with 3-dimensional video. However, we do support YouTube videos. And so if you have spherical video that you've shot in, like, say, using a Ricoh Theta or something like that, you could just embed the YouTube item into the Mural story, and the user would then navigate that way. So, I mean, that would be the one way around it. There may be others.
Perfect. Thanks. We don't have any more questions at the moment. Cool. We can move.
Okay. So, sorry. So where are we going with the Mural software? Well, we just won a major grant from the organization Grant for the Web. And so we're going to be working in coming months on a new version of Mural, and I can share it with you here, I think. If it looks like we cannot share the video here. Okay. Well, let me see if I can actually get this in a slightly different way. Suffice it to say, we are rewriting the application to use the latest web technology. We're using it to we're using technology called React, which makes the video and the creation of the stories that much faster. So literally, when you make any change, it just appears immediately on your screen. Currently, in the Mural editor, if you want to see the changes that you've made, you have to reload the page. But in the next version, it will just simply happen right there on the spot. So we will be working on that almost immediately. But I wanted to mention that this is an open source project. This is not a commercial project. So what that means is that you are not only users of the software, you're not just consumers, but you can also participate in the making of the software. And so it's not enough to simply say, well, it doesn't do what Tilda does, right? You could pay for Tilda, and you could pay Tilda a lot of money to do what they do. Or you could actually get involved in making our software better and share it that way. So this is typical open source. This is the typical open source approach. And it is one where you have a lot more power as the user in the shaping of the tool. Now, what do we need? We need people to use the software to give us feedback on what it does or does not do and how we can improve it. We need UI and UX designers. So if you're a user interface or a user experience designer, we would love to talk to you about what we want to do next. And we're also looking for front-end designers. So if you are good at web design, we would like to talk to you about ways that we can make a new design for the Mural front end for the stories themselves. I like to say, and this is something that I would like to close with today, technology is easy. People are hard. In that you can always get a technology to work, usually. I mean, but it's much more difficult to actually understand people and human interaction. And this goes back to what I was saying about testing your multimedia story. It is always a good idea to share the story with people so that they can see it and give you feedback on how it works and how they understand the piece. So in this way, yeah, technology is easy, people are hard. Here's how you can find us. Yeah, people and technology, the hardest. Oh, I absolutely correct you. I mean, you are absolutely correct. These are all the different ways that you can reach us. Our support page is on the website Reddit. So if you go to the subreddit of Get Mural or /r/Get Mural, then that's how you can find, that's where you post questions and then we provide you with support. The software itself and the manual is on www.getmural.io. The software itself exists for Windows and for Mac and for Linux, for Debian Linux. And then these are the places that you can reach us on Twitter. So we are at Mural Stories on Twitter, and I am Dougie Gyro. Naomi is Naomi Aro, and Pete Howie, who is unfortunately not with us tonight, is at Pete Howie. So this is how you can reach us, and thank you. I guess we can open it up for more questions.
Perfect. There are actually some questions. One question is, I want to create a multimedia story. What are some of like the hidden aspects of like what do you have to keep in mind before creating a good multimedia story? I have photos and I have the text. Do I need anything else so it stands out?
Yeah, well, one thing is to think about how you can use video to tell your story. Usually nowadays, I mean, most mobile phones have the ability to record video at least 720 pixels. If not HD, I mean, the newest iPhones shoot beautiful 4K video. And so the barrier to entry in terms of hardware is surprisingly low at this point. Everyone can shoot pretty good video with their mobile phones. It's really just a matter of thinking about how you shoot that video and what that would look like. Now, there are other things that you can buy that would help you with your shooting of mobile video. This, for example, is one of my favorite tools. This is a tool called a Shoulder Pod S1, which is simply a clamp that fits around your phone. You slide your phone into it like this and slide it down. And it does something very simple. It simply allows you to hold your video, your mobile phone more still than if you were just shooting it while holding it on the side. But what's really nice about the S1 is that you can then unscrew this bottom weight, and it has a hole for a tripod. So you can take your mobile phone and mount it on a tripod for shooting video. And so in this way, what you thought of as just being a regular phone can really be a great tool for shooting quite good video. And in this way, I like the adage that I think it was attributed to Guy Kawasaki from Apple. He said, "Don't worry, be crappy," meaning don't worry about having BBC quality video. Think more about whether the video helps you to tell your story. And hopefully it will. I hope that answers that question.
I actually have the same thing that you were just showing.
Yeah, awesome.
For my phone.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
And there are actually a few questions, not really a question, but how do you manage to combine this human-centered approach with technology?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is not to be afraid of the technical side of things. A lot of people, especially people who are just beginning in working with technology, are very afraid of the technology to begin with. And you hear this all the time from journalists. They say, "Oh, I'm not a technical person," right? But really, this is a great opportunity for you to try something completely new. And the opportunity is absolutely there. And it does not take that much money. It does not take that much equipment. It's really something that you can do with a mobile phone, with a couple of other, really simple tools like that tripod mount. And there you have literally everything you need for doing pretty nice multimedia. Now, is it as good as the BBC? Probably not. But at the same time, it costs 1/1000th of what a BBC quality story would cost, or New York Times.
Perfect, thanks. And just to sum up, so I want to create, let's say, a multimedia story. I go to your website, I download this software, then I, try playing around. And then if I want to host it on my platform, if I have a platform, I can do it myself. If I want you guys to help me, then I can contact you, and then you'll be able to do that, right?
Correct. Yes, that's exactly it. So what you would do in this case, if you're a journalist, you download the Mural software, you work with it on your desktop, you make your multimedia story, and you talk to your organization's IT person and ask them for access to the web server via FTP you would need to install an FTP program. There are several that are free. FileZilla is an example for Windows, for example. And then that's how you would get your story onto the web server.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Douglas. I will be sharing the recording of this presentation. And by the way, your software is accessible to all, right? Not
Absolutely,
just
yes.
like somebody, but everybody.
Yes. Yes, we want it to be
Perfect.
accessible to everyone, not just the installable software, but the source code that we made it with. So you can see how we made it.
Perfect. So if you know how to code, or if you're like me, who can turn on the computer but don't know anything else, then you're good. You can give it a try. I already get like people in chat writing that they installed it and they're trying it and they will be trying it. So on my side, just in the chat, you get a link here. If you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube, just go to the website, get Mural, and download it, try to play with it, see what happens. There's a free version, or it's free, especially if you have your platform where you can host. And you can also text Douglas and the team and ask them to help you. And you can just, do it like case by case basis in this situation. So thanks so much, Douglas, for this presentation. It was very interesting. I have never heard actually before about that. I always saw that, you get tilde and, you do what it provides you with. So it's nice to be able to have like, let's say, more independence, or more autonomous way of creating multimedia stories. So thanks a lot for sharing this presentation with us. If you guys are registered via Zoom.
Can I quickly mention, I've just provided in the chat a link to the slides that I showed tonight. And that slideshow has
perfect.
links to these everything that I mentioned.
So if you guys are registered via Zoom, you will get a newsletter from us with the recording of this session, and you will also get, again, the link to the slides. If you guys are watching us on Facebook or on YouTube and you want to get access to the video and you want to get access to the slide, you can absolutely do that. Just register at MediaBoost.live, and then you will get the newsletter. You will get all of the links from Douglas, so you will be able to look at it later. Just go to our website, MediaBoost.live, and all of the information will be there. Just a quick reminder before we wrap up. This is our 8th webinar, so we have still 12 to go. It's a lot, I know. On Monday, we'll have our webinar with Bektur Iskender. He's a Kyrgyz journalist who speaks Ukrainian, which is pretty cool. And in his country, there's currently revolution. Many different things are happening. He actually started a platform that is now sustainable, that is now independent, that is actually, doing really well. So he's actually going to be talking to you guys how to create a platform that's sustainable, that works really well in a developing country. And I encourage you to register, I encourage you to come, because it's going to be super interesting and super productive. It's already this Monday. And then we have more events scheduled. So just go to MediaBoost.live, register, and come join, see us. People who attend 11+ webinars will get a nice certificate from us. We will also be supporting some of your guys' story. We'll be buying some licenses for the most active participants. I know I repeat this all the time, but we have new people coming. So I have to repeat this. Just know this. Just be active and attend. So I will see you guys on Monday. And before we wrap up, I want to thank you, Douglas, for this really cool presentation. I've actually heard of Mural some time ago through Digital Communication Network, actually, and I downloaded it. But truth be told, I never came to use it. So now I've actually listened to you speak. So I will try to use it, because I'm I'm the very beginner when it comes to computers, and technology scares me generally, unless it's like Facebook. So now I will give it a try, and I hope you guys are inspired too. Thanks a lot for a very good, very practical presentation.
We're looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
Thank you all for attending, and I will see you guys on Monday.